Welcome back to Power and Politics. The terrorist group Al-Shabaab has claimed responsibility for that horrific attack on a Nairobi shopping mall over the weekend. Gunmen stormed the mall around noon on Saturday, killing 62 people, including 2 Canadians. They also took hostages. Kenyan police say they've taken back control of the mall now, but not all hostages have been released, and we're waiting on more details. The explosions have been heard inside the mall even today, although apparently it's quiet now. The Somali group Al-Shabaab says it's behind the attacks. Now, this group has recruited fighters from Canada in the past. Do Canadians need to be concerned about recruiting now? That's been our ballot box question. Joining me now from Toronto with his perspective, the national president of the Canadian Somali Congress, Ahmed Hussen. Mr. Hussen, first of all, can you tell us in your community and your reaction to the attack in Nairobi?
It's a reaction that is that we're very concerned about this horrific incident. We're extremely concerned about the fact that there's been so much loss of life and injured, including Canadian citizens. We, as a community, abhor this type of attack against innocent civilians, and we're very, very saddened by the news that there's such a high number of deaths and injured people.
Can you tell us about Al-Shabaab? Are they actively recruiting Somali Canadians, young Somali Canadians in Canada?
Their time for recruitment has passed. The government of Canada, when the government of Canada banned Al-Shabaab and designated them as a terrorist organization in 2010, that did a lot to diminish their capacity to recruit and to also raise money and do anything in Canada. So their designation as a terrorist group by the government of Canada did a lot to blunt any efforts that they may have had in the past at recruitment.
All right. So do community leaders work closely with the RCMP or with CSIS to monitor that situation here in Canada?
The community, like other Canadians, works with law enforcement to ensure the safety of our communities. I must say, though, there's a part of recruitment that is difficult to stop, which is online radicalization. Right. But other than that, I think their designation as a terrorist organization did a lot to blunt any effort that they might have had in Canada.
We hear that there's some tensions within Al-Shabaab between Somali-based Al-Shabaab members and foreign fighters that this group has actively tried to recruit. Can you give us any of your view on that internal infighting?
There were always 2 camps within Al-Shabaab, one that favored establishing control over Somalia, and another group of mostly foreign fighters that wanted to attack beyond Somalia, and those tensions have finally come to the fore. And a few weeks ago, a lot of foreign fighters, the folks who were more internationalist, were purged from Al-Shabaab, and there's a theory that says that they were behind the Nairobi incident, and it's because they fled across the border and now they have nothing to lose, which is why they're attacking Kenya.
Can you, the other element, some have said this shows that Al-Shabaab is strengthened and that they're a force to be reckoned with, and some says they're on the ropes financially and this is a sign of desperation. What's your view of the state of Al-Shabaab and what this attack tells you?
Actually, the answer is mixed. On one hand, Al-Shabaab has lost a lot of ground. They've lost a lot of major cities in Somalia that they used to control, and they used to get a lot of revenue from those cities. An example is Kismayu, the southern port of Kismayu, where they used to collect approximately $50 million annually in port taxes. That was half the revenue of Al-Shabaab. They've lost that. They've lost a lot of territory. They are still present in the countryside in Somalia. And so in that sense, they've been greatly weakened in terms of revenue and control over cities. But in another sense, they've transformed themselves to melt into the population in the countryside and focus more on hit-and-run attacks and suicide bombings, roadside bombings, and those types of things.
You know,
yes,
Canadians are looking at this, and we're wondering if they should be concerned, even though Canada listed Al-Shabaab as a terrorist group in 2010. In 2011, a Somali American who identified himself as Abdisalan Taka Balahula, I'm not sure if I got that right, he became a suicide bomber and he released a tape on a website urging Muslims to carry out attacks. And he said this, quote, "My brothers and sisters, do jihad in America, do jihad in Canada, do jihad in England, anywhere in Europe." And he lists a series of countries, Canada among them, as I say. What does that tell you? Is that a concern that this fight could come to our shores?
The concern that we as a community have is the concern that all Canadians have, where we want safe communities, strong communities. We value, as Canadians, we value the safety and security of this country, which is not torn by the tensions that are afflicting other countries in the world. I must say, though, the greatest answer to that kind of message that you just read is integration. Communities like mine that are going through the growing pains of integrating into Canada should be assisted so that the process of mainstreaming these communities can proceed faster and better.
Boy, that resonates with that Charter of Values debate in Quebec, though. Isn't that
well, I mean integration, not assimilation.
Okay, that's interesting.
What I meant, yeah.
Ahmed Hussen, your perspective is absolutely critical at a time like this, and I very much appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Ahmed Hussen of the Canadian Somali Congress. Really interesting to make sure we get all perspectives on this. We'll talk more about the risk of recruitment of Canadians by terrorist groups. Is the government doing enough to prevent it? You heard what Mr. Hussen just said about that. The Power Panel will weigh in. Elise Mills, Rob Silver, Brad Levine, Chris Hall, all up next. Stay with us.